Everyone, and welcome to a special Scott Fishbowl edition of Press Coverage. Normally, press coverage one-on-one. Not that I'm a cornerback at all or an NFL player, but guest special edition because we're gonna have multiple guests for the first time in show history. So, welcoming on a few people right now. We've got Andy Hall, we've got Alex, we've got Jeff. Letterkenny problems, who's having some audio problems and video problems too, but hopefully we'll get everyone on. But how's everyone doing? How you doing, Andy?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Kyle. This is awesome.
And Alex, you?
Yeah, great. Same thing here. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Jeff? Testing with Jeff. No, but Jeff Lambert, however, the head of Going for Two, will love if I plug a few things, just mentioning that, of course, goingfor2.com. Check out all sorts of articles, especially now that we're in the summer, tons of redraft-centric articles as well as dynasty articles, some DFS stuff. CFL DFS, for instance, with me, and check out my weekly articles. There's already questions off the bat. So the first from a Facebook user: who is the biggest reach in round one in your division? But before I let the guest answers that, so Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, we're on all those platforms, and you as listeners can come in and viewers and connect with us live, send your questions, comments. If you're on Twitter, you can see the video, but unfortunately we can't see your comments. So head over again to one of those platforms, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and we can then get your comments that way. And so I guess right off the bat, we'll start with recap results. We are into the third round now, so we can talk about the full first round. But any thoughts on who the biggest reach is in round one? I don't know. I haven't thought of that. So does anyone have any quick ideas off the bat?
It was pretty chalky, I think. We had McCaffrey and Taylor, a bunch of the high-end running backs, Kelsey. Cup went right at 12, which was maybe an accident. So, if we want to say maybe that pick, even though it's a great pick.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Dak than Cup, but the fact that they go, 112, 201, Cup, Dak, it's okay then, right? And then you Cup as the 201, it seems better value, I suppose. Andy, any thoughts?
Listen, first round picks, it's really hard to declare a reach of any kind when everybody's got their guy and has a pretty good idea if they've done any mocking at all, who's going to be available wherever their pick is. For me, I knew it was going to be Josh Allen from the minute I got the 1.01. There was no question in my mind that was going to be my guy off the bat. Where they all fell after that, I wouldn't have been surprised at all if the entire first round was quarterbacks. That's just how this league can roll sometimes,
If you were to look at, and I did this, I went and looked at the other conferences. Okay, who else? Because I took Mahomes 102, and I'm pretty sure I was the highest in the conference, and that's 8 of the divisions for these fictional conference. They are fictional conference anyway. I think it's all fictional cities in this one. So I was the highest on Mahomes at 102. So maybe you say Mahomes at 102 is the reach. I obviously don't think so. Just because it's half point PPR, right? It's not full point PPR unless I messed that up.
Per catch and per first down.
Right. Yeah, I guess the added point of the half point per first down does kind of boost a little bit, but McCaffrey in a half point PPR setting, knowing that it's still the super flex 108, maybe consider that a reach. I was maybe surprised to see McCaffrey there. I don't know that he went in the first round of every draft, and maybe like Cup as well. So I don't think an awful reach. He could still finish as the RB1 this year, and I think we can envision that. Without injuries, of course. But I think your initial point, Alex, of it pretty chalky, not any massive reaches here, unless, again, you think Mahomes at 102 is a reach. Jackson at 108 in one division. I guess, where did he go in ours?
6.
Yeah, 6. Okay. We both talked about our first round pick. So, Alex, you took Travis Kelsey at 110. So, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping one of the top QBs would fall. Like if Lamar made it to 10, I would have snapped him up. But I took Kelsey. I think, he's getting old, but he's pretty dominant. And, he should get more targets this year with Tyreek gone. So, put me behind the ball at QB. And, the pick I took right before we got on the air, I wanted a quarterback, but it didn't feel like anyone that was left was the right value there.
Well, and I felt the same. I guess we can get to that pick later, but I think Andy took a quarterback. I think we may have all been targeting the same quarterback, and none of us got him. But Andy did pivot and take a different quarterback. But Jamie did ask a question of where did Kelsey and Andrews go in the draft. So to answer that with Kelsey going 110, and then Mark Andrews went at the 205. To the team that I mentioned earlier had McCaffrey. So they're going 2 rounds without quarterbacks, but elite options at running back, tight end. So that might be an interesting strategy to see. And then Jamie's mentioning that he took Lamar at 105 and got Andrews. Wow, that's a great stack to have. I think we all would have been maybe pushing and liking to get something like that. All right, coming flying in, smoking hot. Omega Keith, how you doing?
Good, man. How are y'all?
Good, great to have you.
Oh yeah, we gotta hop on.
Yeah. We're just right now. We started with talking about the draft and so just the picks we've made. So I guess everyone's gone through their first round pick. So if you want to start with why you made your first round pick and what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, I wanted to go Kelsey, but when he did get right before me, Mr. Alex, I believe, right? Or I can't remember the draft order.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I went with Brady. I think I think him and Rodgers are still two kind of underrated quarterbacks in this settings. But with Rodgers losing Adams, I guess Brady is still down Godwin for a little while, but I got more faith in the Bucs offense than the Packers offense. For my lock in a quarterback.
Yeah, I know Zach Pulowski, a member of Going for Two, he was kind of mentioning on one of the streams, Burrow and Brady were his sort of players he wanted as actually the 101 overall. So it seems really good in this format. Again, the half point per completions, especially helped Brady last year and high completion percentage. So probably a worthy quarterback of taking at the end of the first round, to be honest. Probably got some good value there.
Hope so.
Anyone else have any thoughts about Brady or even Rodgers in this format?
I think Brady's success is going to be, largely dependent on protection and how well Leonard Fournette performs again this year. If Leonard Fournette can have the kind of year he had like he did last year, it's not going to matter as much that Chris Godwin's out of the picture for a little while. I mean, Brady's an extremely efficient quarterback. He's proven that he'll get the ball to whoever he wants to get the ball to. And I think the only thing he's going to be missing maybe you guys will agree with this, is not having Gronk on the field with him.
True. Yeah. I think, the weapons might be concerned. I think maybe that's also, I can't remember Scott Fishbowl last year, but I feel like seeing Rodgers go in the first was pretty common. And now even in ours, he fell out of the first. I feel like it's probably 203. So not too far out of the first, but that's probably one where you're probably not seeing too often in a lot of first round picks. I don't know if you guys have heard from any other divisions or drafts about that, but
I think
Jamie mentioned, Brady was QB1 last year in Zach's SFB research. So can you replicate what he did last year is the question, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to be throwing much less, to be honest. So
still see close to 700 attempts.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, he set a record last year. Even if he doesn't duplicate that necessarily, is a bit of room to come back to the pack and still score up there, though.
Right.
So I guess we could talk more draft, or we could get into some of the high five questions, which I normally reserve for the end, and a little differently here. Instead of going through, one guest naming 5 of each 5, we're just going to have everyone name their favorite categories. So I guess we'll start with, I mimic the themes off recent Scott Fishbowl divisions. And I thought last year was music, bands, artists. So I thought everyone could share who their favorite artists or bands are. So if anyone wants to go first, feel free. I'm really bad at designating. I know, Andy, I think you got some good stories to share. So why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I'm a rock radio veteran. I've been working in rock radio here in Des Moines, Iowa for over 20 years and have had some really cool experiences with a lot of big rock bands, including one of my favorites, the Mighty Mighty Metallica, whom I've done some work with. Been out to their HQ facility in San Rafael, California a couple of times, and been a part of some nationally syndicated programming with the 4 members of the band. They happen to be one of my favorite bands all time. I would put Queen up there as well. And I'd like to point out that I was a Queen fan long before it was cool to be a Queen fan. So in other words, long before Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a great film. But yeah, those are definitely two of my favorites. I'm a big rock guy. And like I said, doing what I love here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Awesome. Yeah. Metallica's great. Metallica rules, right? The auto response to that. And yeah, great that you've been able to interact with them, and that's super awesome.
Yeah, over the course of my career, to be designated as sort of their radio guy is it's an honor that not everybody can brag of. That's for sure. And when this career of mine is over one day, and I'm able to tell those stories, I'm going to look back and say I still can't believe it. Pinch me, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible. Alex, did you want to share your favorite artist band?
Sure. Yeah, I put down the Pixies. They were just like one of my favorite bands in high school. Actually went and saw them when they were like touring, kind of like got back together reunion tour. So that was pretty big for me. But, I also considered putting down Modest Mouse. I think a little bit more contemporary, but was into both like hardcore in high school. Actually interned at a radio station in high school, so thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, the Pixies, they were really influential, and I think they still hold up. And who doesn't like a little bit of screaming? Like Frank Black just making weird noises with his mouth. But yeah.
I guess Modest Mouth isn't that different either in that sense. So there's a theme connecting there. But funny, you got the DJ theme. I wasn't even aware of that, Andy and Alex. So
not quite as accomplished though.
Yeah. And we're all at different stages, right?
It's not an easy business to get into, whether it's just your foot in the door or whether you've been doing it for 20 years. I think that's cool.
Jeff, can you hear us? Are you still having Letterkenny problems?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Right. All right. So I moved over to my phone. Welcome to be here, guys. This is fun. I love the Scott Fishbowl is hilarious. This is my third year. I've got a whole chunk of friends that I made in my first year, and I fully expect a few of us will be buddies for years to come. So thanks a lot for getting me on my first pod.
Well, of course, absolutely. I think we're already having fun here. We've had quite a few comments already and interactions, so I think everyone's having a blast. It's awesome.
You're home now at Letterkenny.
Yeah, we're all residents of Letterkenny.
What a great group, eh? We got like 4, 5, 6 people from Europe.
Yeah, it's a
did I
great
hear
group.
that wrong?
Yeah, wow, it's international. The international love for Letterkenny is so great too. That's it's impressive.
I know we got one in Ireland.
My favorite player.
Sorry, Omega, can you say it again?
I said some of the international fans and fantasy analysts and stuff on Twitter. They're some of my favorite people to play with.
Yeah,
Shout out Rob.
Yeah, for sure. The dedication and the different hours that they sometimes have to go through, the love for fantasy, you can't stop it. It doesn't matter.
It's wild.
But I guess, Jeff, so one thing we did was go through everyone's first round pick. So you want to mention who you took in the first round and reasons why?
Yeah, I had third pick overall, so it was between Mahomes and Herbert. And I guess it was thanks to you I got Herbert, which was the guy I wanted between the two of them.
Nice.
So I just wanted to put that in your head.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Quite enjoyed that. Yeah, I guess the only surprise was the accident by Cup, but you can't really complain about that, right? As far as a first round pick, so it was all pretty chalky.
Yeah.
Could have been, as someone said, 9, 10 quarterbacks easy. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I picked late second, and then I'm picking late third, like a couple of us, right? We got a 101 and a 1 and 2 in this chat, right?
Yeah.
So we had to really decide, given that we weren't going to be picking again with our late second pick, where to go. And so I ended up getting Kirk. I don't know if you guys were chatting about your second picks already.
Well,
But
I think we all wanted Kirk Cousins. So
Bragging now.
well done.
based on, and you know what? And the worst thing is that you guys wanted him, and it took me like an hour to make my pick. So you're just like, please don't. It's one thing if the Band-Aid gets ripped off, but
That's what made us all think we had a shot. The fact that you were taking your time.
Exactly.
You
yeah.
may not want to take him. I know. Well, my co-host on the Dynasty Gambit, also on the Going for Two Live network, Devin Deal, he ended up having the 102 just like me, and also took Mahomes, and he ended up getting Kirk Cousins. So we'll see what that looks like. Mahomes Cousins. I obviously won't have that luxury.
Pretty
but,
nice, I think.
he was like hesitant on it too. Like he's a Bears fan, so maybe that enters, and it just doesn't feel right taking Kirk Cousins this early. But follow the format.
I think I picked Cousins in the last 2 years I've played. The only 2 years, other years I've played. And so, but I was able to grab him, I think, a little bit later on, like into the 4th round. So,
Okay.
Kind of feels like tradition at this point. You might have to draft him next year too.
it
In
works.
the first round, just going up.
Yeah. What did you guys think about your 2nd round picks? Did you talk more already? I apologize.
No, but we can kind of start running through that. So I guess who would have been first in the 2nd round? Would it have been Alex or Omega?
I think it was
Alex.
I think it was me at the 2.
So going Travis Kelsey. I guess you were locked in set on quarterback, but also probably a quarterback you wanted there or we're targeting.
Well, Omega was ahead of me in the
Oh,
draft
yeah.
order.
I'm sorry.
We were right there together. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So go ahead, Omega.
So I took Brady, and then I could have gone with one of the quarterbacks there, but I'm a big JJ fan, so he's still worthy of that pick. So I got a smart pick in the 1st round, a hard pick in the 2nd round.
Elite options again, at least one quarterback, so covers the bases. And then speaking of quarterback, go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was not desperate, but I knew I needed to lock in a quarterback. So I was really, I think we were talking about this in the group chat, but I was on the fence between Hurts and Rodgers. Like, Rodgers has been great for the past 2 years, but Devontae Adams is gone. What are they going to do? Is Christian Watson going to earn any trust? Or, but they have a good defense. They have a good O-line. Aaron Jones and Dillon can both catch passes. He likes Lazard. He's got Randall Cobb. Maybe that does something. So I went with him. And like Jalen Hurts was definitely in consideration, but living in Philly and watching all the games, I kind of wanted to separate a little bit of the real life fandom from the fantasy fandom. And, in a best case scenario, like I do well in fantasy and the Eagles win the Super Bowl, but if Hurts is on my team and doesn't do so well, then it's like both of my teams do poorly, and I didn't want to risk that a little bit. So kind of a heart pick, but not in the homer pick way.
The anti-homer almost, but it's still influenced by it in a sense. And then as Jeff was mentioning, that stretch at the end of the 2nd. So Kirk Cousins goes, and then I went Austin Eckler, just thinking stacking the AFC West division. They'll play each other twice. So hopefully those games correlate into big scores between Patrick Mahomes and Austin Eckler, Chiefs and Chargers. So they both have Week 8 buys. So that might be something to have to look out for in the future. But I feel like there's still enough rounds, and it's not best ball. This is managed leagues, so you can also, just because you're not set at a certain week in the draft, you can still work towards that as the season goes on. So while I saw that it was there, and it was it made me hesitate a little bit. Okay, do I really want to take Eckler if they're both on the same bye? But ultimately, I'm thinking I can make up for that, and it is just 1 week, and I think if I just keep drafting good players, I should be able to cover myself anyway. And then Andy, you already talked about, I think, mentioning Trey Lance, but if they wanted to add anything about Lance, feel free.
Yeah, you and I talked before we started the pod here that at that point, I mean, the Eckler pick made it a little easier for me to commit to quarterback, seeing who was still there. And you're not going to win a tournament like this or have any sort of success unless you take a few risks. And granted, I don't think I wanted to take as big a risk this early, but Trey Lance can also be that guy that can help you win a league. He's one of the biggest boomer bust candidates that anybody could draft, I think. And considering how important quarterback is in a super flex, I just thought this is the spot, despite that there was some serious talent still on the board. I knew the third round reversal was going to come into play here. In hindsight, I don't think I would change a thing, because now, starting with the third round pick, I can just kind of go whatever direction I want now that I feel like I got quarterback locked down. So
I feel like taking Lance, the risk is also easier to stomach when he's your QB too. Someone going who hasn't taken a quarterback yet, probably a lot harder to make that decision.
yeah,
Right.
no doubt about that. Yeah.
So Omega, did you get to mention your favorite artist or band yet?
I put down Grizz. Yeah.
Right.
I listen to a lot of different music, but we don't get many live concerts down here in Mississippi. So I actually went out to see him live here in town. But one of my best experiences.
Awesome. Yeah, those live connection experiences really help us connect to not just the band, but the songs in a different way too. So yeah, it makes sense. I guess I could mention my favorite artist band. I have seen them live as well. Up in Canada, again, we don't necessarily get all we'll get some of the big names. But Yes, which obviously not necessarily as old as when Yes started as a band, but I like I've got nostalgia feeling inside me. So I like Yes as a progressive rock band, 60s and 70s, and Steve Howe is one of my favorite guitarists. So getting to see him and Chris Squire live, that bass guitar duo is just phenomenal, and that was such a great live experience to see. And I love their albums, the Fragile, especially the concept album, and just the idea that each member had their own kind of individual song. They had the group songs, but each member had their own like track that they wrote themselves and decided how it was going to be placed, and it was completely different. Some I guess John Anderson and Chris Squire was similar things. Okay, we're just going to overdub. I'm going to make all these different overdubs on the voice or overdubs on the bass guitar. And Steve Howe's like, I'm just going to compose a classical piece. The drummer is like, well, I need everyone else to play. So everyone follow these rhythms. And it's just interesting how each member would choose to kind of create their own solo composition. And then again, the group songs as well, stuff like Roundabout, I'm sure is really popular. So yeah, Yes is my favorite band. One of my favorite co-hosts for sure is Gladys. You'll see her next Monday on around the same time slot, maybe a little later, but the 2-point conversion. So again, catch that every Monday, alternating with us here at Press Coverage. So just every Monday we'll have a show on Going for Two live, and in season we will too, of course. But that's Press Coverage and the 2-point conversion split in the off season for now. I guess we are in the third round, so a couple of us have made third round picks. So I guess Omega, back to you. Third round reversal, so you're back at the 302.
Yep, I went Diggs here. I was surprised for Josh Allen passing, but it's going to be maybe rough waiting on running back to come back for these 2 full rounds here. But I still have. Feel really good about getting Diggs and Jefferson with Brady. 2 players I can say top 2 rounds. Well, 3 players I would pick in the top 2 rounds.
This is just going to be a lot of pass attempts and a lot of targets just between all 3 of those players. So the volume should certainly be there. And we do have to start 3 wide receivers, as much as the scoring settings. You initially look at them and like, oh, okay, maybe fade receiver, but you got to start 3 every week anyway. So you can't completely ignore it. So the depth is great there. And especially at the top end, there's 2 every week starters that you're never taking out of the lineup.
Yeah, don't have to worry about it. I didn't look at their buys, to be honest. So we'll have to check that out later. Make sure.
So apparently Gladys hates third round reversals. I guess us, especially us at the start, Andy, I'm sure we're maybe biasly inclined to think so. Well.
They're both week 7, just FYI.
Yeah.
We'll
Jeff,
have to consider that.
Jeff, are you hear us?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. But okay. Yeah. So wow, we got quite a few messages. Mr. Scamper is scampering in here, saying, "Hey, everybody." Yeah, an Allen manager not taking Diggs is interesting. I know Andy already talked about just the need for quarterback as a motivation. Was there a temptation to take Stephon Diggs there at all?
Yeah, listen, if it weren't for that 3rd round reversal, that would have been an easy pick and one of those two.
I hear you.
But again, so often in this league, I've gone the way of not getting my 2 quarterbacks right away. And I think I probably let that get the better of me. The fact that, that hasn't turned out the best to wait, because the times that I've risked that, I've ended up with garbage as a quarterback too. And, and then ended up feeling like I needed to take a 3rd earlier than I needed to as well. So I don't know if that makes any sense if I'm talking in circles here, but
well,
at that point,
I think it makes a lot of sense, because you probably would have gone Diggs right there in the 2nd, and knowing that, okay, there'll be this group of quarterbacks to choose from. Maybe not get the guy you want. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten Lance, but at least another quarterback you feel comfortable with at the 302.
Yeah. As opposed to waiting where I don't know who's going to be there at that point. So I felt like I needed to lock that in at that point, as much as I would have loved to have stacked those 2. A great start to this draft, no question, but 3rd round reversal.
That's fair.
And I think I know I've listened to the GOAT District quite a lot, and one of the questions they always ask their guests this year is, the top 3 wide receivers in redraft seem to be locked in as Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and who's the best chance to be the wide receiver 4, or outside that group has the best chance to be the wide receiver 1 overall? And Diggs is quite a popular answer on the show. A lot of smart minds, high stakes players going on the GOAT District mentioned Diggs as a potential wide receiver 1 overall. So that upside might be there.
Definitely be my answer. So Evans is a dark horse.
Jeff, can you hear us?
Doesn't seem like it.
But I guess the most recent pick of the draft so far has been you, Alex. So not quite a live pick on the draft, maybe just before the show started, but maybe a live explanation is the most current pick. So let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, so I kind of put a comment in the little MFL box there that Wayne likes the big dog this year, but just a little nod to Letterkenny. But Derrick Henry was the choice. I definitely changed my mind a dozen times, but it all started with quarterbacks. So like everyone's saying, you want 2 solid guys if you can get it. My strategy last year, I went Russell Wilson, and then when it wrapped back around, I got Tannehill. Didn't work out because one got injured and the other was just not very good. But kind of, taking Kelsey put me behind the ball a little bit. I wanted another quarterback in the 3rd round, but looking at what's there, I think Tua was on the top of the list, but Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Tua, Davis Mills, Geno Smith, Mitchell Trubisky,
Very wide.
definitely a tier break. So I didn't want to put that 3rd round capital into one of those quarterbacks. And, it's a little bit of a dice roll, see what comes back to me. Pongrazio definitely with 0 quarterbacks is taking one, you'd assume. But, there's
He was
only
joking about 0 quarterback.
There's only 4 teams with 2 quarterbacks. So between that means there's, another 4 or 5 that could definitely hit a quarterback there. But we'll see what comes back. Derrick Henry should have tons of volume. He might, you want him to stay healthy. And so we won't talk about the alternative. And, I think Kelsey is, elite. Derrick Henry's kind of elite, doesn't catch too many passes. Rodgers has been elite the past couple years, so we'll see. If you can get top tier players, it's usually a good strategy.
I think it's kind of almost your thinking, Andy, with taking Trey Lance, you're taking the big swing, and so Alex, you're making this pick banking on Derrick Henry's health, and you're saying you're not worrying about the alternative. You're drafting with that assumption, and everything will fit to build. Win a big contest. If you're just playing a 12-team league, you can maybe afford to play it more safe. But what is it this year? We're over 2,000 people.
3,000 people.
3,000.
Yeah. So you gotta do
and he's the king of December. So hopefully late in the year is when he does his best work. But we'll see how it goes.
Jeff, can you hear us?
Yeah, I was gone for about 10 minutes there, but totally agree. Big tournament. Got to swing for the fences.
And I think we'll wrap up this question here. Jeff, who's your favorite artist or band?
I picked the Hip, Tragically Hip,
Nice.
because it was the first concert I went to, and it blew me away, and had such a great time and loved the Hip. But I got lot of votes, but I'm gonna stick with the Hip and be proud of it.
Yeah, Hip's a great band. That's awesome. Has everyone got a chance to see them here?
No.
I guess maybe they don't always tour down in Iowa too much. To be
Has everyone else heard of the Hip?
Yes.
The Tragic
Heard of them.
Yeah.
I haven't looked up at them.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised. I know Iowa seems like kind of a I don't know, farm country, or I don't know what people think of it outside of Des Moines and outside of Iowa. But Slipknot's from here, guys. So this is not a place that people can ignore. Bands do come through here. We have quite a few shows. So home of Slipknot.
Yeah, it's great on the metal circuit. Obviously, you mentioned Metallica and stuff. I know. The Hip tends to, they're Canadian bands. So they tend to tour Canada a lot, and they tend to stick close to the border, northern states, and maybe a bit of Louisiana as well. Tends to be where they're more popular. But yeah, I'm sure they have toured in Iowa before. But yeah, go Tragically Hip. And and Mr. Scampers brings up a good point. He joined late and he didn't hear the QBs taken. We didn't actually mention the entire list of quarterbacks taken. So maybe that's actually interesting to see, like, with the Scott Fish Bowl, super flex, and with all this punitive quarterback scoring for the incompletions, where it really pushes up these top guys. You really want the elite guys. Where did they go? So can run through that real quick here. What was it? The first 6 picks were all quarterbacks: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and then Lamar Jackson. Omega Keefe's already talked about his explanation, taking Tom Brady at 111, and then Dak Prescott at the 201, Aaron Rodgers 203, like Alex said. And yeah, Alex, you mentioned you were debating Rodgers, Jalen Hurts. Hurts went the very next pick at 204. So I don't know if that made you feel better or if that made you feel like, okay, the debate was legit. And
I think he said in the chat he was going to take whichever one I didn't. So like, we're thinking alike at the very least.
Just made the choice for him.
And then Derek Carr at 208, followed by Kirk Cousins 210. Was anyone surprised to see Carr ahead of Cousins? I know I was, but maybe I'm just crazy about Cousins.
I'm not, but I don't call him. I have him pretty equal this year.
Especially with Adams going there, right? That's kind of the thing that flips it over.
Probably.
Yeah, I did a 14-team Superflex startup. I guess we started, I think, April, and Derek Carr was he was in the second round of the startup. So and I think that manager mentioned, if Adams wasn't there, they wouldn't have gone that early on him. So it seems like he's seen an increase in price, probably not just in redraft, but also dynasty.
Probably. And
then after Cousins, the most recent quarterback taken was Andy taking Trey Lance at 212. So far 3 picks into the third, no quarterbacks yet, but that's probably not that extreme of that many quarterbacks going compared to maybe some other divisions too. Now we have
like 10 going the first round, or 9 or 10.
Yeah, that's what my division was like last year. Like the one thing I learned in my first year of real fishbowl was like the QB thirst is real. You do a bunch of mocks and everyone's like trying out some strategies, and then like it's draft day and everyone's like, nope, I need to feel safe with a QB.
Quarterback.
Yeah. And we have a really important question that needs to be addressed in the show. So, or in the chat. So Gladys mentioning, I'm sorry, but what is Letterkenny? ? So who
best
is
TV show you've never seen, apparently.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Give your balls a tug.
Puppers.
It's a show that I watched because Scott Fish kept tweeting about how funny it was, and he wasn't wrong.
Thank you, Scott.
That was sort of why I chose that division, because I just got into Letterkenny in the past year, watched all 9 or 10 seasons, watched the spinoff, this show called Shoresy, and Scott Fish put it in the fishbowl. Like, that's where I'm going.
Canadian comedy for short answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith. Yeah. And Gladys, thanks as
it's
well.
Great.
Yes. Great Canadian show, as Alex mentioned. Into 9-10 seasons now, a bunch of specials. And I guess, Andy, did you want to share anything about Letterkenny?
Listen, the Canadian humor is something that's near and dear, as I have a lot of family up north of the border, and I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota originally, so Canada
How are
South
you now?
to call us. But I'm into a lot of that great Canadian comedy, going way back to like the SCTV, that crew, and I'm kind of old school like that. Schitt's Creek, of course, is a great one. Letterkenny and Shoresy are amazing. I've been through both multiple times, and it never gets old. I just love it. So when I saw that it was an option for division, it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Same.
Doesn't someone in our division live near the corner store?
That'd be me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Was it Carr?
I can remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he sent
That's
a picture.
awesome.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, so Letterkenny is filmed in Sudbury, which is where I live, and Shoresy is as well. And I mean, obviously, Shoresy is based in Sudbury, so they do really play off that in the universe of the show itself. But so certain scenes like so there's a corner store that they show a lot in the show, and that's filmed right here in the center of Sudbury. So just literally, I timed it the time I went to take a picture just to show, and I was curious, and it was just a 10-minute walk for me there. So definitely a corner store that I've gone to and used before. A lot of like the farms and stuff. There's a lot of farms around Sudbury. It's a mining town, but peaks and valleys. So there's lots of rock and nickels. There's also lots of valleys to have farms. So north of Sudbury, there's some farms, and that's where a lot of the farming scenes are filmed. I know Modine's is a bar that's not too far actually from that corner store as well. So right on that same stretch. So so Sudbury's almost like Letterkenny, in that Listowel is like Letterkenny. So I guess Gladys, to just talk about the more behind the show. It's created by a Canadian actor named Jared Keeso, and he's from Listowel, Ontario. And Letterkenny is kind of supposed to be based on how Listowel is. And I know they originally started actually with these shorts on YouTube called Listowel Problems, and eventually turned into Letterkenny Problems. And I remember watching it all the way back then. And then I remember hearing the announcement that they got picked up with Crave and Bell Media to produce the show, and so I was already a fan before it even started. So I was super excited when it became a show, and I guess I'll talk a bit later about specific things of why I like it. But basically, I've been waiting for a comedy show like this for basically my whole life. Like South Park and is amazing, and that fills a certain need too. But this is also very very well done in a different way. I just think Keeso's such a fantastic actor, great writer, and a lot of wordplay and comedy too. And I love that. It's not just
like
it's all
rapid fire. It's just one after another.
Relentless. There's whole scenes that I love the way it's filmed as well, but certainly I love the dialogue aspect of it. Very wordy comedy. Can also have some slapstick aspects and some hilarity. And one of the aspects of it is, what do small towns look like, especially in Canada and in 3 big divisions, especially in Southern Ontario? It seems like it's your farmers, your hockey players, or your skids, rebellious drug user type kids that dance around corner stores. And I think and being from Canada, knowing how, I've been surrounded by enough hockey players. I played a bit of hockey myself as well. Not quite to the level of where Jared Keeso or any of the guys on Shoresy did, but that's how hockey players talk. Like that's legit for sure. It's super accurate right from season 1. Just the way that Riley and Jonesy communicates. Like, yep, I know so many people that's them. So very authentic as well as being so exaggerated and almost seems unbelievable, but it really is. So I think it's a good mix of that. So I hope that answers your question, Gladys. Get on with it then, though, right? Mr. Scamper sent a comment. Yeah, taking Diggs there would have punted to a much later QB option. So yeah, it's the risk reward guessing game that you play in every fantasy draft, right? Like that's part of the guessing game of, do you go for player now or later?
Yeah, I would like to reiterate that I would have loved to have taken Diggs right after I took Allen. I mean, that would have been amazing. But again, considering 3rd round reversal, I'll keep going back to it. That really throws a wrench in your plans if you're the 1.01.
So one thing that not everyone could come on the stream, but some people did, provide their answers in advance to read off. So Cathel's in the draft and mentioned favorite artist band as Green Day, being their favorite band. I love Green Day as well. So definitely a good mutual feeling for that. And then I guess we can move on to the next category, which is top toy. And this was the Scott Fishbowl theme 2 years ago. So anyone want to go first here? No, I'm really bad at designating. Now go ahead, Andy.
I was always a Legos guy growing up, so I might have been the first one to order the Lego trophy shirt when FSB or SFB 10. I saw that shirt and I said that's me. Have to have it. So I ended up ordering pretty much all of them, I think, including the one you're wearing, Alex, which is a great shirt. But yeah, I think Legos for me, and it continues to be this thing. I've got Legos all over my music room here. I've my kids all are Lego freaks. And that's probably no small part due to Dad and his obsession. So yeah, I'd say Legos.
Honestly, that was probably going to be my answer too. I loved the Star Wars Lego sets because those are fun because you're naturally inclined to just make the ships blow up and crash and then have to rebuild them all over again. So it's that kind of excuse. So it's part of the action, right? I love when they made the Bionicles. Those were a bit different than what normal Legos are used to, but then they made the comic series and the movies behind that and all that merchandising was fun. Jeff's wearing a Scott Fishbowl shirt as well, the G.I. Joe style. So Jeff, what was your favorite toy growing up?
Definitely went through the G.I. Joe phase and the Transformer phase. I'm lucky I have a few brothers, so whenever we were into something, we were all into something. So I would get one ship and my other brother would get another ship and another brother would get another tank or whatever. And so we would have a lot. So that was great. But I guess maybe either a big wheel or a GT snow racer or something like that, or were really popular. But nothing beats a bike, if you consider that a toy.
No, it's true. It's productive, right? Exercise and can be a lot of fun. So maybe that's a good positive answer.
A little bit of freedom.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I got my first bike, we didn't have computers or anything decent to play on a video game, so it was outside. So yeah,
Yeah,
I remember when I got my first bike. Yeah, I think the most advanced thing was the Game Boy, which is Alex's answer here. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'm an engineer now, so Lego were definitely a big thing. Mr. Scampers was talking about Connects in the chat. I definitely had those too. But the story that came to mind was the original Game Boy. Like, we traveled a lot when I was a kid, so like for those plane flights, you get fresh 4 AA batteries, and your parents knew you'd be quiet or whatever. But I got it for my birthday one year, and my parents had bought one for my sister and one for me, and my birthday was a month earlier. So I was so upset because on my birthday, my sister got a gift, and I was like, "What is this? It's my day. Why is she getting a gift?" And they're like, "Don't worry. When her birthday rolls around, you'll get a gift on her birthday." But she got a Game Boy on my birthday, and I got a tiny little consolation gift a month later on her birthday because they realized I was going to make throw a tantrum otherwise. And I'm 30 something years old now, and I still think about it. So it clearly made an impact on me. But we'd go to bed and the parents would be playing Tetris. And I remember taking him to Disneyland, and we had the little connection cable. So we'd be waiting in line for the roller coaster and stuff and just playing 2-player Tetris. And that was the best ever.
Awesome. Yeah. And all these memories you're getting right from these toys. It's not just the toys themselves, but the memories that attach to them that make them so memorable and so great.
But was anything ever better than N64?
Oh man.
It's funny because we'll talk about best video games. I think that's actually the next category. Maybe it's where we transition. But I'm a PC gamer, so I never actually had games. So I did have a Game Boy Advance, but other than that, I always just played on PC personally. So I'm not the best person to answer that.
The N64 was pretty formative for me, and I'll say all the newer Mario Karts are a little too fast. There's a million things flying everywhere. N64 was the perfect Mario Kart for me. But some of my friends always cheat on the different levels, so it's tough to beat them.
I didn't spend any time playing anything other than GoldenEye. That was the only game I played. I never even played Mario Kart on the 64. It was always GoldenEye for me.
So I guess we'll transition into that best video game. So GoldenEye for Andy, I guess straight shooter, right? Andy, that makes a lot of sense.
I love the multiplayer. It was something my idiot friends and I in college used to play all the time instead of going to class and see how I ended up. That, good strategy.
No, I definitely remember that. Yeah, playing GoldenEye with the friends. That's such a great game. Jeff, I think you have a similar answer.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it is GoldenEye for the multiplayer mode for sure. Nothing comes close. I'd give up my bike just to play GoldenEye.
Talking about that freedom.
Yeah,
the freedom to choose, though, right?
Yeah.
I
Except
guess
when you played with clappers. That wasn't fun.
So Alex, I guess. You put GoldenEye as well.
I think I just got to the dock first, but the proximity mines. Like, I remember the first time I played was at someone's house, and it was like a sleepover with probably 6 or 8 kids there. So like, if you died, you handed off the controller, and like there were the 4 plugs going into the N64, and the like rat's nest that the cables were tied into after a night of like passing it one way and another. But like, I probably played as much GoldenEye as every other game combined. But like, there was Zelda, Mario Kart. I was trying to think of Smash Brothers. Like, the original Smash Brothers was so good. Like, definitely tons. Like, I think my neighbor and I probably spent, a day just fishing in the mini game in Zelda one time. Like, and we had bikes, but
Zelda. It's funny. Well, you mentioned Smash Bros. Andy, like you were saying, like, maybe spending more time in college, university playing video games than you should. For me and my friends, it was Smash Bros. So yeah.
Looking back, not the smartest thing, but
we've made it, right? We're successful.
I may have been an engineer one day like Alex up there, but we played a lot of GoldenEye, man. Hours and hours of it.
So Omega Keith, you noticed he had to leave, but he did write his answers down. So just we'll share. He mentioned Rocket League as his top video game, and I've played a bit of that. It's pretty fun. It's not the easiest combination of cars and soccer, basically, and yeah.
Boston Scott is like a high level ranked Rocket League player. And my neighbor plays it all the time, and I just walk in and go, "Are you as good as Boston Scott yet?"
Awesome.
So I guess, did he score more goals in that last year or more touchdowns? Because he did find the end zone quite a bit.
He always scores against the Giants. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's a lock. He's the Giant Slayer.
And then again, Cathal had put their answer in. I actually did mention top toy, Power Rangers original Megazord. So yeah, I had the Power Rangers Turbo Megazord. I didn't have the original, and the Turbo one's pretty cool. But yeah, I think that nothing beats the original, right? And then Cathal also mentioned top video game being BioShock. Another game that I played. I really enjoyed that. I know one of my friends probably lists that as their favorite game. But yeah, that's interesting first game, and it seems like this sequels and the installments in the series have been well received and good as well. My favorite video game, I mentioned PC gaming, and there were really 2 that I'm choosing between, and I'll stick with the GoldenEye theme and go with the shooter. Well, I did love GoldenEye. It's close, but I think I played more Star Wars Republic Commando. So you played as clone troopers during the war, and you played as Delta Squad, which is not just any clone troopers. These were like the Black Ops elite soldiers, going assassinations, like the Black Ops missions kind of thing you see in Call of Duty now, I guess, a lot too. So that aspect you don't really see too much in the movies. You see a lot of the straightforward shooting, the open battlegrounds a lot, but those missions are really interesting and cool that, not just as a shooter, but you're a squad commander. So leading your squad, getting them to do tasks as well is built-in part of it. So yeah, first-person shooter game, but also a little bit plus to it, and great graphics. Came out in 2004, 2005. So the sound was impressive too, and some great behind the scenes videos included just how they came up with the sounds for all the different characters. The Trandoshan aliens, them walking as a pineapple cut in half, and just like how interesting you can make like pineapple sound so menacing and correct to the character. It's video game sound creating such a great art form, and I felt that game really hit on a lot of forms and just so fun playable as well. And the online version as well, like a lot of shooter games now, you play more of the online than the campaign, but I do like playing that campaign quite a bit too. So Star Wars Republic Commando for me. I guess, yeah. So we're still in the third round. Have there been any picks since Derrick Henry? Oh, there has been. I guess a live pick just a few minutes ago. Najee Harris taken at 304. I'm not gonna lie. I was debating between Najee and Eckler when I took Eckler ultimately. I think the division connection and the knowing they were playing some head-to-head games, hoping that correlation kind of pushed me towards that. But I could have just as easily gone Najee Harris with my pick. Mr. Scampers says Turtle Van. Is this a video game? I've never heard of this. Can someone clarify? Nope, no one knows. We're a little slow on the reference there. Electric Razor.
I think it was a toy.
Okay, Electric Razor against an uninterrupted pan for one of the vehicles, I believe.
It was like the van for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with like a big tortoise shell on the front.
Right. Yeah. Remember that from the series. Okay. Cool. I guess, yeah, that gives 3 of our categories, and I guess we're closing in on an hour. So do you guys want to keep going top movie now? Or are there any other football topics that anyone wants to cut to? Yeah, you called it exactly, Alex. Ninja Turtle fan. There you go. You got it. So yeah, Ninja Turtles had a movie. So yeah, we can talk top movies. So Alex, what was your top movie?
I put in My Cousin Vinny because it was just one of those, like, I was on vacation one summer, channel surfing, and caught the beginning of the movie. If anybody hasn't seen My Cousin Vinny, please watch it. It's a classic. You got Marissa Tomei acting like a New York girl down in the very South. It inspired me to try grits when I was in like New Orleans a decade later. For the first time, I was like, I've heard about this, but I've never been anywhere that actually makes it. And it's like, a key part of that scene in the courtroom. And it's, Joe Pesci just being Joe Pesci and, punching a guy who's like a foot taller than him when he finally has the, I love that movie. My neighbor hadn't seen it. And I was like, all right, what are you doing right now? Like we're sitting down and watching this.
Oh, talk about The Razor. Sorry, Mr. Scampers. The Razor was a documentary about sound effects in Star Wars games. So that actually was really cool. But just mentioning an electric razor against an uninterrupted pan for one of the vehicles, just like what you could make the sounds from, and just it's all the strange things you could use on a tight budget to make these video games, which I guess video game budgets are maybe getting a little bit better and bigger as we go on. But just such a cool art form. Making sound effects for video games is really neat. Really cool process there. Jeff, your favorite movie, which I guess My Cousin Vinny, bit of a tie-in there. Not quite the same theme or tone to it, but
we both like Pesci. Yeah, you know what? I picked the one that I've seen the most, and I think I remember in high school, the guys were saying, how many times have you seen Goodfellas? The guy would say, I've seen 15 times. 15 times? You haven't even seen it. I've seen it 25 times. Like, that was kind of like, it was such a great flick, and it was the one movie I couldn't turn off if I was flipping the channels and came across it. So, big Pesci fan for sure. It's a great flick.
So Jeff's verdict: Goodfellas, good film.
Good film. You got it.
How about you, Andy?
This is really tough for me because I think I've gone and when I was young, it was probably one answer. When I was in my teenage years, probably another answer. I think I'm going to go with what you just said about the movie you can't ever turn off. And for me, anytime I come across Back to the Future, I'm in. Can't turn Back to the Future off, no matter where we're at in the movie. So I guess that's probably as good an answer as you'll get from me today. Although it could be a completely different answer tomorrow. I don't know.
Well, live answer.
Yeah.
Gladys's answer is Love Actually. Although it's funny because on the 2-point conversion, we've done that before. Different celebrities, like, okay, who's top 5 movies from this actor and things. So I know Gladys has quite a few of those lists that she's already ranked herself. But yeah, I guess great Christmas movie. I guess that's Mr. Scamper's reaction to that comment. So just a few more written down. So Omega Keefe wrote down Lucky Number 11.
That's a great movie.
I believe I saw it, but when it first came out, so I don't really remember much about it.
It's like visually striking. There's 2 like millionaire mobsters who live across the street in these skyscrapers. One of them is, I think, Morgan Freeman, and like his place is all black and white tile, very like contrasting patterns. And like Bruce Willis is in it. It's a really good kind of like keep you guessing twist at the end mobster movie.
Lucy Liu's in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
she
I am
like
thinking of the
shows up at Josh Hartnett's door and like as the neighbor, and then he just kind of gets drawn into this like series of events where he's whisked from one building to the other after getting punched a couple times.
Oh, okay, that'll wake you up, right? But yeah, as Mr. Scampers says, Slevin is so good. So clearly, Sir Ben Kingsley, I guess, one of the characters in that, correct?
The other mobster, I believe.
Okay. And then I guess Cathal had put on Airplane, which talked about Letterkenny being comedic genius. Airplane is as well. I think that's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Definitely somebody gut hurting laughs that it's like, oh, this is painful, but it's so worth it because it's so funny.
Another Canadian actor as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Leslie Nielsen. Yeah. And then for my answer, I'm going with, I guess it's the whole trilogy, but I can narrow it down to one of them. But Lord of the Rings. Those movies to me are just so visually impressive. There's a bit of CGI in it, but there's also obviously like motion capture stuff with Gollum, and they didn't actually have that many horses. I think but I think that they used about 100 live horses, and obviously you've got to double that to make thousands and thousands in the film. But there's also a lot of real life stuff. Some of the sets were actually constructed, and I know that the Rohan sets especially so impressive that they talk about it. They made this basically this little village in the middle of nowhere, and it was there for like 6 to 8 weeks for filming, and then it was all torn down. No evidence of it after, but it all exists on film. And it was, I guess, part of that was they could have done all that filming in a stage in a studio somewhere, but the authenticity for the actors was a key part of I guess that's in Two Towers and in Return of the King. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Two Towers. The Battle of Helm's Deep for me is just so well done as a fight scene, just army strategies and just the drama of it and the way it's filmed that night in the dark. And it was quite a rigorous filming process and well captured on film. So I'll go Lord of the Rings, Two Towers in particular. All right. Now we have talked about Letterkenny, and we've talked maybe about the general ideas of it, maybe some general ideas why we like it. But now let's get to some specifics. Favorite Letterkenny moments. So Alex, you want to start us off?
Sure. I mean, it's a great show, and there's definitely a lot of moments that my neighbor and I are constantly quoting. But I did a little research on the Google, and I found a picture of Shorzy peeing into a urinal from very far away with Riley and Jonesy on either side. And I'd forgotten that happened, but I instantly knew I wanted to put it on the list. And, let's be honest, who among us hasn't sort of, said, well, I really need to pee and there's no one around. Like, maybe I can see what my range is in this public restroom that I don't need to clean up, or, whatever the situation may be. If it goes according to plan, you're not going to have to clean anything up. So yeah, just Shoresy being Shoresy pretty much, and giving Riley and Jonesy a hard time while making them look bad.
That's an example of all upside, where you're just banking on the upside. I'm not going to miss this.
Exactly.
When I saw your photo, I was humbled, because that was like one of many, many, many fantastic scenes. But you can't say that anything's better than that one. That was a classic. Good choice.
Andy, did you have an opinion on this?
You know what? I want to say the whole talent show episode, really, but if you boil it down, the best of the best was Coach and what he did to that poor little ukulele after, and that diatribe of his after the guy kept coughing. I mean, I think I laughed so hard the first time I saw that scene. I think I actually threw up. I was laughing so hard.
As Coach would want it, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I wasn't drinking something carbonated at the time, because it would have gone right up into my brain. That was as good as it gets. That's probably my favorite, though. I love the talent show episode in general, but Coach he kills me.
Yeah, his delivery every time is just, he turns it up to 11 to go with the Spinal Tap reference.
He just does. I mean, my God.
Speaking of more comedy gold, but so I think this is back to your scene, Alex, the long urinal reach that Mr. Scampers believes that it's called a heat check. So yeah, take that as you will. Jeff, your favorite scene or moment?
Now I do have to fess up. I've only went through it once. All right, so I did some Googling just to kind of see famous scenes, just to kind of remind me of some of the ones. So I can't really say that there's just one, but I mentioned today when I thought about it. When I think back to funny, it's when they were doing Crack an Egg, which is the talk show that they have, the TV talk show that they do in season 7. And then, it's, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I won't spoil it, but it starts off funny, and then they decide to start, they're taking calls, right? So they're taking calls from people in the community, because the thing is Wayne is just annoyed because people are always calling him, right? And he has nothing. All he does is pick up the phone and give people advice, how to do this, how to do that. So he decides, I'm just going to do a community TV show. And so he does. And this way, people will only call him during that half hour or hour. But then it got really funny when they started pounding beers. And I got to watch that one again. I think that was definitely one of my favorite stretches of the show. But there's so many that I just loved and laughed at, Like, you guys remember Fart's book?
Yeah, right from season 1, old school.
Like, I gotta watch these all again. That's the great thing is, it's been 5 or 6 years. So.
I'll be honest, Jeff, I haven't rewatched the entire series yet. I think like the early seasons I've seen a few times, but yeah, I think even into like season 7, like that whole Crack an Egg season with the talk show, I haven't rewatched that yet. So yeah, it definitely needs to happen. And I think new conversions to Letterkenny. Gladys mentioning that she's tuning out for this to go watch Letterkenny on Hulu, which is a great idea. I think you're better off watching that than us, but appreciate anyone who is watching us still.
Shoresy's great. I've enjoyed Shoresy as well.
Shoresy's great too for anyone like wants to learn more about hockey, and I don't know how much you guys know about the background behind that, but I did watch some YouTube stuff behind where they're interviewing a lot of the actors used in that, the 4 ringers they bring in, and they're all like the rapper they bring in, that's really who he is. He was actually drafted in the NHL, and now he raps out of Montreal, and a lot of those guys are former NHLers in some way, or professional hockey players in some regard. So the authenticity, again, back to that, Letterkenny represents the authenticity of small towns. Shoresy just the authenticity of hockey across Canada. And that's the reality of it.
You could tell that Shoresy knows how to skate.
Yeah. And they mention that too.
He shows off a little bit.
All the actors on the show know how to play hockey in some way, shape, or form. And I know some of them have mentioned they've acted in other movies before, and guys aren't, the stick's the wrong way or the helmet's not quite on right. Like, it's the details are there because they made sure everyone who participated actually could skate and knew how to play hockey.
Yeah.
Even the fish, like they were mentioning, like they were like, there's a training camp aspect to it where like the first, the main fish got replaced because he couldn't skate well enough. So the fish actually got cut and a new fish came on. Yeah.
I love it a little. Go ahead. Sorry.
Season 1, episode 1. What the WTF, right? Like the cold opens to the seasons are just phenomenal.
In Shoresy, real quick, I just love that you get a little more of his backstory and know where he's coming from, especially the family reunion sort of scene that they shot with Scott Thompson, which I thought was a great cameo for him. Always been a fan of his. He's a funny man. But yeah, to see a little bit of that background too was good. In addition to all the humor and the characters, of course, because that's Jared Keeso, man. He knows he can develop those characters.
I think my wife was saying
like
just
hints of Ted Lasso a little bit, just like a much more foul-mouthed and silly Ted Lasso, but like maybe there's 2 seasons and it's sports related and there's some parallels, but yeah, that home family reunion scene is great. Yeah.
I know my wife was mentioning, like, just the way he acts, it kind of makes sense that he's a foster kid, like that. It's just the way Shoresy acts. Like she said that she's kind of had maybe that experience in dealing with people in those situations, and it's everything ties in, right? The authenticity of it. It's nothing's done by accident. Andy, did we get to your favorite Letterkenny moment?
Yeah, I think I mentioned the entire talent show.
Oh, right. Yes, you did.
As you guys were going through your favorites, I'm reminded of some of these other scenes too. And I'm just like, oh my God, you can't just pick one. That's almost impossible, right?
Well, and I almost, Kathleen and I had a similar idea. We both went with cold open. She says the cold open with Riley and Jonesy doing the cold open, which is that's not usually the case. You see a lot of Wayne and Daryl going back and forth. But to me, the season 2 cold open, season 2, episode 1, the very start of that episode, alliterating the entire alphabet, describing a fight, is just, again, it's stuff like that I've been waiting for my whole life to watch a comedy show do something like that. Alliterations are awesome, and I will proudly state that mantra as much as possible.
It's just like the writers are like, we're so smart, and we had some time to think about something clever, so we really want to shove it in your face how smart we are. Like, aren't we clever? And you're like, yes, it's great.
And I'm all for that. I'm all for someone showing off how smart or clever they can be. But I think it's the attention to detail of not just conveying the message, but the word choice you're using. And again, nothing's done by accident. Keeso is just a genius for that. So
yeah, I think Kevin Smith is somewhat similar in terms of his writing style. And if you're in Philadelphia there, Alex, out near Jersey there, that's how people are for real. I mean, or at least, in the 90s when he was writing Clerks and movies like that. But I think Kevin Smith writes in that same sort of vein. Keeso is just so authentically Canadian and yeah, just his word economy is no object, He's not a word ninja at all, but we love it regardless.
He's the opposite of Kevin Smith's character Silent Bob, right?
Good point.
Very much like dialogue driven, like, it's not quite the West Wing Aaron Sorkin, but, kind of like if you add a whole bunch of swear words and stupid jokes, then you're there. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I think it's not Scott Fish's birthday, but we basically could celebrate it like it is Scott Fish's birthday, kicking off the Scott Fish Bowl, and we can all have a super high intensity party, or we can have a super soft party. And back to season 1, Omega Keith mentioning the super soft birthday party, because again, you've got Wayne, especially this big tough toughest guy in Letterkenny. Like, you get into a fight with him, he'll kick your butt no matter what. He'll always win. And Daryl's pretty tough himself too, but they have the softest birthday parties ever. Ponies, just streamers, like just very much childlike birthday parties for Daryl. And they kind of explain throughout that first episode too, like why they do it and who it really is for on that too, which is nice. There's always a meaning behind it, right? So definitely encourage anyone. Well, I won't spoil anything, but yeah, the super soft birthday party. If anyone hasn't seen the show yet, you'll see that pretty early on in the run of the series. I think definitely one of the standouts.
That tradition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the explanation behind it, as well as the execution, just seeing it, all these tough guys with little birthday straw hats and the confetti, not the confetti, the thing that you blow that a streamer like. And
what I laughed about is when they turned farm animals into unicorns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got the animals there. Why rent them?
Love it.
Farmers know how to throw the best parties. But we're hoping this was a fun Scott Fishbowl themed party. Really appreciate everyone for joining, whether it was on camera or in the comments, and great for that. So I'll go around the room and let everyone kind of plug whatever they want, and let everyone who's watching and viewing this let anything they want to know about themselves. So we'll go clockwise around. Alex, anything you want to let the people know?
I'm just a fan, but if you're into Scott Fishbowl, it's really about charity. So if you can consider donating or make a bet in your home league that you'll have more wins than another team, and the loser donates to the winner's charity. Like, those are always. I'm not big on gambling, to be honest. I don't know why I'm so into fantasy football. I just like numbers. But yeah, the whole charity aspect is great. So, in honor of Scott Fish, think about that.
There's a number of reasons to love fantasy football. Andy, your turn.
Yeah, I'll echo what Alex said. And I think what's really cool is a couple of years ago, Scott started to encourage us to donate to our favorite charities and really call attention to, some of those places of need. And so for me locally here in Iowa, it's been the Food Bank of Iowa since I can remember. I've done a ton of work with those guys, and proud to do it again this year, and put in my volunteer hours as well. I'm a guy that's been playing fantasy football since 1993. Thurman Thomas of the Buffalo Bills was my very first ever draft pick in the league that I was in with a bunch of family members back then. So it's a lifelong passion for me, one that I parlayed into a radio career, which includes contributions to our ESPN affiliate here in Des Moines, Iowa, where I'm also the proud owner of 515 Fantasy Football. So in addition to all my rock radio, all my career fun I've had there, fantasy football continues to be a big part of my life. And Kyle, I really appreciate you having us on, man. This should be fun this year. Yeah, well, thank you, Andy. And do you want to let people know where they can find and follow you? Sure. Yeah. At Andy Hall Radio is where you can find me on all the socials. Laser1033.com is the website for our radio station. Laser 103.3 Des Moines, Iowa. If you ever come through town, look me up and I'll roll out the red carpet and show you around. Appreciate that, Andy. Appreciate you coming on. And Mr. Scamper saying, thanks, fellas. Happy fish day. Going fishing. Jeff, how about you? Anything you want to share with the people?
I just want to encourage anyone who's listening to this and not partaking in the Scott Fish Bowl. My first year, we took part in a satellite, which was lots and lots of fun. And it wasn't too long ago. He only had about 800 people that were in the Scott Fish Bowl, and then it doubled, got close to 2,000. Now I found out that it's like 3,000. So fully expect, jump in a satellite, show you care, and maybe next year, the year after, you'll find yourself, and hopefully I'll get back in. Just get lucky. So it's fun, and mainly because you chat with other people that are either in your group or in your draft slot, and you end up, picking their brain over trades, for the next 5-10 years. So that's what I've been doing and loving it. And this has been great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, the connections just beyond the league year of, okay, this 12-team league and this regular season, the group chats remain, and those connections do as well. So yeah, appreciate that. And so I'm on Twitter at Senra Says, and you can catch all the Going for Two Live shows on Twitter at Going for Two Live. Get all the updates for that. Just schedules this week, really quick off the top of my head. Fantasy Cheat Sheet tomorrow night, and of course every Wednesday, Jeff and Ryan Zierfoss, they co-host the Armchair Fantasy Show, our flagship show here on the Going for Two Live network, and they're into their division previews. And Jeff likes to talk about the fact that he do the division previews a little differently and do it draft style. So draft each division on the show. So those are always fun to watch, and not just the content of the players, but what's the draft order going to be each of these divisions. So Not sure which ones. I know they did the North last episode, so AFC North and NFC North. So check out this Wednesday's episode to see which division they do next. And goingfor2.com, again, a source for all sorts of great sports things, including Canadian Football League DFS article, which I'll probably put out tomorrow. So again, as a Canadian, love that sport, love that game. They need, I think, can Jared Kiso do a CFL theme show? He's done Shoresy. Wonder. But so really appreciate
the existing Letterkenny characters. Who would it be? Dan, or who? I mean, who would be the player?
Right. Yeah. Dan makes a lot of sense. He's got the offensive lineman body. But those guys also tend to be like the emotional teddy bears of teams as well. Like you see, like the offensive linemen's everyone's good friend. Like you can always take those guys out to dinner and like have a great time with them. So like you're probably right. That's probably a good call there, Andy.
Yeah, I think he is a teddy bear, and he's constantly talking about his women's studies instructor.
Professor Tricia, right?
Yes, Professor Tricia, that's right. Who got mentioned in didn't we actually see her in that bonus episode we got recently?
Yes, I thought so too. Was that the Valentine's Day one, or?
I think so. The one that they bonused us not long ago, actually. I'm trying to think. I'll have to go back and watch it now, of course, but
yes, no, a lot of great things. We're really happy to finally meet Professor Patricia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we're over an hour now, so I think this was a great time. So again, thank you, Alex, thank you, Andy, thank you, Jeff, thank you, Omega Keefe, and thank you everyone in the Letterkenny division and all the listeners and viewers. Once again, I'm Kyle Senra, and this was Press Coverage. Bye for now.